Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, December 26, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread for today? First two cards we are starting our day off with today. We have here I love it. I absolutely adore it. We've got here our Six of Cups in its upright in combination with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal. Now this is beautiful energy, my friends, because, and I want to point this out, one of the things that we were seeing that was coming through in the cards over the last few days is built upon built upon joy. Like we just kept seeing a lot of those messages of joy coming through. And what's important about the idea or the perception of joy is the fact that we don't just find joy. You know, we don't just go, "Oh, look, lucky me, I found some joy here." No, that understanding that joy is something that we create with our own hands. I just keep seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, that feeling of being able to transmute, being able to take something that is a negative and moving it into the space of a positive. This is what is effectively allowing a lot of energy right now to take new approaches, right? To come into that ability of adaptability, that ability of being flexible, changeable. We often see this, and I need to stress this. It's very intriguing, isn't it? That we always hit that point of starting to set resolutions in the transformation point between Sagittarius into Capricorn. Remembering what we spoke about the fact that the Sagittarian energy is very much in that space of being like the scientists of the astrology, always being able to be in that space of making creative changes. Capricorn energy, resilience, hard work, putting things into practice. So a lot of this work that we see right now is potentially coming through in the resolution of taking new approaches, like resolving to resolve, if you will. And some of this, when I'm hearing resolution right now, this could be even the resolution of any kind of partnerships, friendships that aren't in a space of healing. Because I see, especially whenever we start seeing a lot of the Six of Cups energy, it usually has to do with relationships. It always has to do with familial connections, friendships, things that we feel are very close to us. And that ability of being adaptable, we see that is a lot of that flexibility here that is allowing for new approaches as it relates to healing. Why are we seeing this right now? A lot of this energy, we were talking about this before we started the daily collective reading, going through that pathwork of healing. When you're in that space of healing, you don't want to keep it to yourself. It feels indulgent to just be in that space of working on the self. So we see even now that this is a lot of energy that is recognizing how far they've come via how they are navigating things, how they are seeing things. Because healing comes in many forms, and sometimes there's a profound moment of healing and appreciation for our own journey when we recognize that we're looking at something in a different way. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within divine, we're going to start with the energy and separation right now. Because honestly, everything I keep seeing with energy and separation right now, there's something really beautiful that's happening right now. I just keep seeing that, especially ever since, and I don't want to hear anyone talking poorly on Mercury retrograde periods, because a lot of this started during the Mercury retrograde period. And during the Mercury retrograde period, that was even more difficult with the addition of the Mars in retrograde that started in the midst of it. A lot of this energy right now is building into new partnerships that are requiring a lot of courage, right? A lot of these wounds of the past being healed. And often what's painful about wounds of the past is it makes you feel like you're about to step right back into the thing that caused the wound in the first place. But this isn't the energy that feels like they're repeating cycles right now. Doing something in a way and seeing the restoration of trusting, of building into the context of trust. We see some very deep alignment that is occurring here. And is this energy in separation fearless? No, right? This is the energy that is articulating upon the fears instead of reacting to them. And so we see even now, like, it's a little bit of this back and forth that's happening, because for every step forward that this energy takes in separation, they feel the weight of the grief in recognizing and realizing what was something that they changed within the self that is allowing for a breakthrough, versus what was something that they are healing within themselves when they recognize that there was never anything broken there in the first place. Because often when we're in trauma environments, or we're in environments that something is not happening that is normal, when we try to bring normalcy to it, it can make us feel like something we are doing is not normal. And so this is a lot of energy that is healing from situations of the past that they're now looking at and saying we're abnormal, because something that is creating restoration and healing in the present is articulating and identifying what was wrong in the past. And that's painful, because when we realize that, it's like we have to experience it again, because we're looking at the past with new eyes. So we see even now there's a lot of that energy giving one another grace as they do so. Now, for a lot of this energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that is recognizing and identifying and taking and building into that point of appreciation. This is more of that energy that is learning that valuable lesson that we never find the perfect partnership. We never walk into the ideal situation or scenario. The gift of healthy partnership is what we create within it, right? These are the energies that recognize and get their hands dirty in doing that, because this isn't the energy that sits around and waits for the perfect opportunity or situation to present themselves. They look at their partnership as a project in perfection. And that doesn't require, right? That doesn't require perfection on the part of the counterpart. This isn't the energy that looks and says, this isn't working because you're not being perfect. This is the energy that looks to one another and says, this is beautiful. How can we make it better? Right? And that, because that ability of always saying, how can we make it better? That is the perpetual gift that they give one another via their own sense of perspective, right? That is the perpetual gift. The perpetual gift is not one that we look at another and say, you better be perfect for me. The perpetual gift is that we look around us at every opportunity and say, how can we make this even better, right? And that's not showing a dissatisfaction with where we are. It is trying to create a joy that is energetically abundant, right? Now, for masculine and feminine, deep within divine union, it's actually a little bit of the opposite here. I feel like some of the energy right now, deep within divine union, is in cleanup. Like, I see a lot of this energy now in divine union that is more in that space of cleaning up, if you will, right? Not necessarily feeling that need, because do you see how these energies, they move back and forth? You'll recall, right? You will recall that, like, a couple that before when we started this reading, the last time we read, the energy deep within divine union was creating abundant joy. Now the energy coming into divine union is creating abundant joy. And now the energy right now deep within divine union is cleaning up from having created abundant joy. But even there is something energetically joyful. Center card for today's spread is, let's see, we have here the Sun card. So there's a lot. I want to say this is the joy that we're talking about, right? A lot of that work and that space of gratitude. And I'm not surprised to see this type of energy right now in relationality to where we find ourselves, because we've got that Capricorn. We've got that Capricorn full moon energy, new moon energy that's right around the corner. We've just exited the Sagittarius cycle, which was a lot of that experimentation. And now we've got a lot of energy of the Capricorn, which starts grounding things into ritual and practice. So a lot of that feeling of resolution right now. And I like this because this isn't the energy that's navigating resolution from a state of deep dissatisfaction or wrongness. This is the energy that is instead looking at something and saying, how can I make something better? How can I take something that is good and improve it even further? There's a lot of refinement that I'm seeing here, and a lot of this combination between the Three of Pentacles in its reversal and the Sun card is a little bit of that optimism as it relates to thinking outside of the box today. So today is a really beautiful day, especially like, listen, we got that Capricorn new moon energy coming in. Take advantage of it. Think outside of the box right now. Build into that space of resolutions. This is the type of work that we're seeing right now. Fourth and fifth card in our 5-card spread for today are, we have here our Lovers card in its reversal in combination with our Emperor card in its reversal. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit, because if this Emperor card looks familiar, it's because we drew it in the same exact position in our last reading. This is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Now, why are we seeing a little bit of this disparity here? Masculine and feminine are working on the same lessons, but in different ways. Now, masculine energy, a lot of this work that I'm seeing right now is a continuation on what we are articulating on. And we're just going to talk about this because this has been something that's been coming through ever since the retrograde cycle. Masculine energy, not trying to move themselves further away from their emotionality, but working on integrating their emotions. That's difficult work, because if this is masculine energy that in the past felt or thought that in order to be masculine, they had to divorce themselves from their emotions, right? There's a lot of this energy that is working on recognizing the difference between separating oneself from the emotions versus integrating the emotions, right? When we integrate an emotion, we are stronger for it. When we don't integrate our emotions, they become our Achilles heel, right? So a lot of that work, this is the masculine energy that is working to recognize the emotions that come from the ego, right? The emotions that come from the part of the self that want what they want, when they want it, the way we want it. Recognizing and identifying that when we do that, we leave ourselves closed off to the abundance that can potentially be around us. Versus the masculine that feels those emotions that rise up because something feels energetically precious. So I just keep seeing there's a lot of masculine energy right now that is putting a lot of thought and consideration into the energy of partnerships around them, identifying and recognizing what feels like it can come into that space of healing versus those spaces or places that like require to be healed from. And I can see like some of the difficulty for some of the masculine right now. The reason that this work is so close to the work of identifying the difference between the egoic emotions and the higher self emotions is if there was something that was energetically disrupted in the past because of the ego. When we heal something in our egoic shield, we can then readdress it because we recognize and identify that we can see what we are self-aware of. So I see even now like a lot of that energy of masculine doing a lot of that work, and it's difficult. And I'm going to say it again to masculine energy that's going through this. If you're experiencing something that you're looking back on with regret, congratulations. You're no longer the person that would make that energetic choice. You're seeing something in a way that you didn't before. It allows the ability to heal it, right? Either healing it externally or internally. For feminine, this work that I'm identifying, it's a little bit more frustrating. Why is it more frustrating for the feminine? Because if these are spaces or places where feminine had too much compassion, right? This isn't feminine energy that's looking at that space that leading with compassion is energetically the wrong thing. Leading with compassion is never energetically the wrong thing, so long as we utilize the discernment as to whether those around us are navigating things with that same sense of compassion. Compassion is a gift, and a gift must be appreciated. And so we see even now there could be a lot of the feminine energy that is healing from experiences or places where it feels like their compassion was not appreciated as such, as the gift that it is, or being in that space of another taking energetic advantage of it. So you can see even now, like, this work is a little bit more complicated for the feminine because it feels thornier, right? It feels more energetically painful. So we see even now that both of these energies are healing in profound ways via that energetic observation point. Now, continuing to get clarification between our Six of Cups in its upright in combination with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal, may I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its upright. Now, I just want to show you this because it's very important. This is why, and I just need to stress this. This is why working through these emotions are different right now for masculine and feminine energy. Because for the masculine energy, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine, this feels more akin to a feeling of energetic surrender. And what do we mean by surrender? Do we mean surrender? I need to stress this. I don't know why it's always miscommunicated this way. Surrender does not mean giving up. Okay? Surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender means, from a spiritual and emotional context, that moment of coming into a place of energetic acceptance, particularly in the realms of another's emotionality, right? So we see even now that there's a lot of that. This is how I see so much of this energy of the masculine is healing to a certain degree. Because that ability of looking, like when we're in a space of love, right? It is the expansion point of feeling the stability within the self and then wishing it upon those around us. And so I see even now, and this is really important because this is happening across all the frequencies. There's a lot of that energy that I feel that space of not like identifying, like when we're in a space of recognizing that our emotions are not things that we need to control, but rather something that we feel. This is allowing the masculine to build into a better connection with feminine, because that ability of allowing oneself to feel the emotions that one feels, to observe them instead of becoming reactive to them, then when you see another in the space of their emotions, you hold those emotions as energetically sacred. We can only hold emotions sacred if we hold our own emotions sacredly, right? And so if this is the masculine energy that is learning to hold their emotions sacredly, then this is the masculine energy that may potentially be looking back on experiences where they wouldn't allow themselves to feel. And so it was harder to hold others' emotions sacredly as well. So that's why I see that there's something really beautiful about this, because this ability of the masculine to integrate the emotions, not only is it healing them in the present, but it's allowing them that ability to see things from the past wherein they came across as, I want to say, like cold or unfeeling, but that was more because they were battling within themselves not to energetically feel anything, right? So this is a lot of the masculine that's holding compassion both for themselves in those moments that it felt like they were like disassociating from their own experience, and at the same time building into a sense of compassion for the energy that was around them as they had to navigate those points. For feminine, This is an observational point, seeing the masculine into that, in that modality of self-observation. This is the energy of the feminine that says to masculine in that modality, I never feel safer than the moments that, not when you're not feeling emotional, but in the moments that you can recognize and identify and articulate through the emotions, because you become more powerful than anyone I have ever seen in that context, because this is the feminine that sees the masculine that is truly strong. The masculine that is not controlled by the force of their emotions, but also is not in a space where they don't feel any emotions, but the masculine that has learned to be able to allow the feeling of the energetic emotions to be one that they observe and experience, and then make the choice, the self-aware choice of how one navigates them, instead of just moving in volition to the emotions. So there's a lot of work that I see that is happening right now as it relates to energy holding space for the emotions that they feel without being reactive to them. And this is what is allowing for a lot of the energy to look at the past with new clarity, or to be able to heal from experiences where another may have came toward them with more of that volatility instead of intention. Continuing to get clarification between our Three of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Sun card in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Temperance card in its reversal. Now, I'm not surprised to see the Temperance card here in its reversal, because, and I do believe, just checking to see, it did not come up in our last reading, but I'm pretty sure it was there in the reading before, because everything that I'm seeing here with this Temperance card in its reversal, and I'm going to say this again because this was coming up in yesterday's reading. And it's a strong message for masculine energy that's on this healing journey. Okay, masculine energy, if you're experiencing any of that frustration with yourself, or anything in those moments in the past that you're looking at something and you could have seen something that you would have done better, you already are. You already are. Your observation of your own path work is the path work. You are always on time. And so I see even now, this is why there's a lot of that energy, recognizing and identifying, working through that frustration with the self, right? Because that frustration is the gift. Because when we're frustrated with ourselves, it's because we hold ourselves to a higher standard. So if you're feeling frustrated right now, I don't want you to be hard on yourself with it. I want you to be expansive. I want you to be compassionate with yourself, remembering that that frustration is the hallmark of moving in a pathwork of alignment. Because you're holding, like when you say to ourselves, I'm not following my energetic standard, or I see something that I could be doing better. That's what allows for those breakthroughs to occur. So don't look down right now with that. Look up. like let it move you, let it move you into thinking in creative ways, doing things in a different way, taking a new approach to things. For feminine, I'm going to tell you right now, feminine right now, this feels a little bit more frustrating, because it feels more like the feminine energy not being able to put their finger on something. You know, like it's giving me, it's more of that pickiness that we're still experiencing coming out of the Gemini full moon. It may feel like I see a lot of the feminine energy, like jumping around, trying to get a lot of things done. I want all the feminine energy right now, like just focus on your to-do list, and remember to write a get done list, because for a lot of the feminine energy right now, the only thing I'm going to articulate upon that is important to recognize has to do with a little bit of this like feeling of pickiness, right? And that pickiness can be very helpful, right? It's really good for things that are very detail oriented. So make sure that if you're feeling a little bit of that pickiness today, make sure it's pickiness with a purpose, right? Because when you put that feeling of pickiness into places that it doesn't feel necessary, it may feel more provocative to those around you, right? Like you can, this is beautiful energy, like I said, for refining things, for fine tuning. And so, let it affect you in spaces of productivity. And if someone else is coming to you with their pickiness in a way that you're recognizing that they're letting it more come from their ego, be compassionate, but recognize one's own boundaries. Because I just keep seeing that there's a little bit of something here that has to do with the pickiness of feminine, recognizing and identifying what feels supportive and helpful versus what feels energetically frustrating, right? And I keep hearing like there's something about the feminine being able to put their finger on it today, or being able to articulate on something in a way that they haven't before, because they're utilizing that sense of comparativeness to help look at things and say, why does this feel different? Or why does this feel better? And why does that feel worse, right? Like there's a little bit of that. It's more of that energy that we're still seeing about navigating through nuance. That's still like, I think, a little bit of that hanging on, if you will, from the Gemini full moon. Continuing to get clarification here between our Sun card in its upright in combination with this Lover's card. This is the thing that makes me this is a little that like back and forth energy today. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with the Moon card in its reversal. Like I said, this type of energy, this is the thing I'm going to tell you right now. This is a beautiful energy for untangling knots. But you can create snarls with it too. Okay? The same energy that is wonderful at untangling knots is the same type of energy that you can accidentally create a snarl if you're not careful with it. So make sure that you're conscientious with what you're being picky about today, right? Because if you're being picky in a way that you're untangling a knot, it's going to be productive. Make sure that you're not getting in your own way by being energetically picky on something that isn't important. That is the best way I can describe how to utilize today's energy. Okay? Like you can either you can untangle a knot right now, or you can accidentally create a knot. So just be conscientious of that. And especially making sure that you're not taking things personally. Because if you're taking something personally, like that's what I told you about that, like that matching energy, or someone that's not experiencing this in a way that they're in over internalizing this energy today. Like don't match someone if they come towards you like that. Just be compassionate and intentional. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lover's card in its reversal in combination with the Emperor in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with the Nine of Pentacles. So I see even now, like, this is productive. It's peaceful. It's working on creating peace. So I really want you to focus right now on the work that feels restorative. I feel like it's kind of it's not necessary for anybody listening to this podcast, I hope, for me to have to say that. But it's also, I mean, there's something really we're gonna talk about this right now, because this is why this energy is bittersweet. This is straight up why the energy is bittersweet. And it is having a different impact on masculine and feminine. And this could be, like, I gotta say, there's a little bit of this hermit energy here today, only because I just want to show you how far apart the masculine and feminine energy are right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. So this isn't necessarily a negative thing. I see a lot of this energy right now working on and focusing on personal path work, even within divine union. Now, for masculine and feminine energy and separation, I'm going to give you a little bit of the amplification of what I'm seeing is happening right now. I see a lot of energy right now that is in separation building into new partnerships, but they're not necessarily in tangible proximity to one another. But the clarity, the absolute clarity and transparency that is occurring right now with some of this energy and separation, being able to see the clarity that is attenuated and reinforced, something that becomes even clearer with distance, the energy that isn't in proximity to one another. And as a result, they can see they're giving each other the gift of clarity as it relates to what they can energetically expect going forward. This is what I see is allowing for so much of these breakthroughs right now in separation. Because if these are experiences of the past where someone was in direct proximity with someone and there was a feeling of not knowing what was going to happen next, to be able to build into a context with someone that the concentration, the prioritization point is the stability and easement that you're creating for one another along the way. These are energies that are starting new partnerships, and they're bridge builders. You know, they are focused on building that bridge. And when you're focused on building that bridge, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. This is the energy that sees the intentionality of the counterpart, not just when things are easy, but when something is energetically tested. So a little bit of that same turbulence that we recognized and identified for the energy that was coming into divine union is now being experienced by some of the energy in separation. But what happens in experiences where someone experiences something where, if these were energies that were healing from the past, where the slightest disturbance caused breakages in partnership, where like the slightest thing being off, like everything would fall apart. If these are the energies that feel like they're building into separation and something is being put to the test, but it's not even feeling like there's no anxiety there because of the stability and the support that they've been creating for one another, a lot of closure that's happening right now for any of those experiences in the past, because it's the observation of what felt like it was created from a rickety foundation, right? This is a lot of the energy that's recognizing that stability is not something that you have to anticipate, that when you're building into a healthy partnership, it's usually there from the start, right? And so I just keep seeing that a lot of this energy is healing in profound ways, because it's the observation of how stable something can be from the start that is helping them heal from experiences in the past that were always in like some kind of point of needing energetic repair in the first place. And it's not to say, again, it's not to say that everything needs to be perfect. But when we're building into partnership, everything that we recognize is identifying where we put that prioritization. And so I just see that there's a lot of energy right now in healing that is healing simply via building into an energetic connection that prioritizes building from a point of stability. Now, for a lot of this energy right now coming into divine union, this is the peace that this energy has been creating for one another along the way. Some of these energies right now that are coming into divine union, these are not energies that were perfect from the start, but I want to point out, this is the energy that's been very corrective, right? This is the energy we saw that was putting a lot of work in recognizing what needed to change in the self to be able to perpetuate a healthy partnership. So that ability of doing so, this even now is the energy that's feeling that point of appreciation with one another, right? This is the energy that is appreciating how far they have come, because this is the energy that's seeing qualities and characteristics in themselves that they didn't see there before. They didn't see them prior to being in partnership. But these are not energies that feel like they've moved further from themselves with those changes. These are the energies that recognize and identify and feel the power of that work, right? And a lot of it has to do with that feeling of how important something has become to them, right? This is the energy that feels the appreciation of that, because they feel like they created it with their bare hands because they did. And a lot of it has required a lot of that work on the self. And so this is the energy that says to one another as they're coming into divine union, we're not perfect, but we recognize that by prioritizing the connection, all things are possible, right? And so this is the energy that's working on, again, of creating and amplifying that sense or that space of joy, expounding upon it. And if those around them don't see something with that same clarity, this is the energy that tries to articulate and provide that clarity, but doesn't try to move off of their own course of direction in the process of doing so, because clarifying to another isn't the prioritization point of the energy coming into divine union, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within divine union, I just keep seeing this is a little bit of this this is like a sigh of relief today. This is like a feeling of easement. This is kind of returning back into some energetic routines. But I see even now it's about returning back to routines, but making subtle changes, working on subtle refinements today. I keep hearing perfecting systems, if you will, for a lot of this energy coming into divine union. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its upright in combination with our Temperance in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Pentacles. I love the fact that I originally was saying how distant these energies were at the beginning of our day. But do you see how quickly, like, whoop, like masculine energy is like right back next to feminine here? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. So, and this is rather beautiful, if you will. And we're going to explain this. This is the energy right now. I see energy in separation that is not necessarily in physical proximity to one another right now. They're not doing the same things. They're off in different places. But look, far apart, right next to each other, right? The clarity that we give each other is not fundamental in relationality to doing exactly the same things at all times. When we prioritize clarity, we allow for stability in partnership because it doesn't require that sense or that space of always doing exactly the same thing, but having the certainty and certitude of the clarity that another brings forth to one another, building into that context. I see even now, this is what I mean about these new energetic partnerships coming from a place of deep stability and deep authenticity, because these aren't the energies that are looking at counterpart and going, wow, I hope that person becomes more stable. This is the energy that says, this is the energy that sees one another and says they've been stable from the start. There's no hope of expectation there. There's just the desire and the excitement that something positive is going to continue to grow, right? So there's a lot of this here, like here, that is creating that. And for masculine and feminine in separation, it's having a different impact. For a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, that ability of being open to feminine, right? Like letting that authenticity guide them. I feel like there's a lot of that masculine that feels very safe and supported right now in some of the connections that they're building with the feminine. But this is also the masculine that recognizes that a lot of that stability is coming to them because they're not putting a false sense of self in front of the feminine, right? Like when we bring a false sense of self out to try to introduce to new partners, it's like we're not letting them meet ourselves. We're giving them this false identification point of who we are. So I see even now, like this isn't the masculine that says, take me or leave me as I am. This is a masculine that's doing that work and saying, I'm trying to become my emotionally authentic self, because when I am my emotionally authentic self, I give you the opportunity to love me there. And this is the energy that's seeing that work and recognizing that it's working. And then again, feeling the conscientious point of identifying what they're finding within feminine, while also being appreciative of how far they've come, right? It's a little bit of that chicken and egg thing that's happening here. Welcome to manifestation. While for masculine and others meet us, and that's what we mean when we say others meet us where we are at. While for masculine and feminine energy, and that's why, again, a lot of the healthy energy of the masculine in separation, articulating and amplifying on that point of saying to themselves that we saw the other day, I'm always on time. You're never late for your journey. Now, for masculine and for feminine energy, a lot of the feminine energy right now, I see the same works happening, right? And this is the feminine energy that's doing a lot of work in being articulate upon their emotional needs. This isn't the feminine that just feels the untenable emotional need and then drops it at the doorstep of the masculine. This is the feminine that goes through that process of feeling the emotions, identifying like what are the inexpressible feelings versus what are the ones that can be tangibly worked upon. So this is the clarity that we see that these energies in separation are creating for one another, right? Feminine taking the guesswork out of for masculine is the gift that the feminine brings to the masculine. For masculine, the authenticity of the self that they put forth from a place of vulnerability. These are the energies that are taking that and they're building a really strong bridge in the process. And the nice thing about a strong bridge is you don't have to be in direct proximity to one another because you know that the bridge is there. And it's a strong bridge. So we see even now there's a lot of that energy that's feeling the feeling, I want to say some energy and separation that's starting to feel weight being put upon that bridge that they're creating. But the bridge is nice and stable and it's reminding them about how shaky the bridge potentially was with someone that was not invested in building a strong bridge in the first place. Now for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that recognizes how far they have come. And it's beautiful here because if this is the energy that's recognizing and identifying how far they have come, this is the energy that feels that sense of not being perfect, but then remembers that they don't have to be. That perfection or that feeling of desiring to be perfect, we often feel that sense of perfection when we build into a context of prioritizing something, right? So this is the energy that feels that shift that's occurred because when we prioritize something, we move towards it and it changes us in the process. So there's a lot of this energy that feels like, again, and I think it's really beautiful. I see a lot of energy coming into divine union and they're finding themselves on the way because the changes that they feel are existing as they move towards that partnership feel like they're bringing them closer to their higher self. Because when we're in healthy alignment, those changes, they feel like they bring us closer to who we are. They don't make us step away from them. While for masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union right now, I gotta say the energy right now deep within divine union is, I want to say, like, there's a lot of this work in feeling like there's a perpetuity in the work that one needs to do, but also building into that context of feeling the easement of that weight, right? Not allowing oneself to be stressed with that energetic pressure. This is the energy that I see even now is constantly in that space of perfecting and refining things because they're always trying to create that balance point of, again, not like, I want to say, like, this feels like a lot of that, like, it's interesting. We don't see any of the, like, this is the energy that's just trying to perfect their own systems right now. And a lot of that is like, if this is the energy that is like focusing on the details, this is the energy that feels the gratitude for being able to focus on the details. Because when you've gotten like the majority of stuff worked on and you can concentrate on the details in that way, it kind of in itself, it's a blessing because it's saying that it's showing like that sense of exactitude that one is able to maintain because of the stability that you've created within the healthy partnership. Continuing to get clarification between our Temperance card in its reversal in combination with our Moon card in its reversal. This is we got our Knight of Wands in its reversal. So this is the one thing about today's reading that I think is a little bit difficult. And we just have to navigate it. We're going to talk about it. That pickiness if someone isn't in a healthy place, that feeling of pickiness can create a lot of, I want to say, feelings of energetic dysregulation, if you will, right? It can create a little bit more of that ungroundedness. So doing that work today, like we're still coming out of that Gemini full moon energy, which can feel a little ungrounded. And especially with the new moon energy coming up in Capricorn, like being able to take some of that and move it into what it feels productive today is really important. Because this is, I keep getting this and we're going to be experiencing this for a while. The Mars in retrograde is creating a lot of heightened sensitivity right now and anxiety. And so being able to channel that into spaces that feels energetically productive is really important. And I'm going to keep saying that because Mars is going to be in retrograde until February. It's not going anywhere. But that's why I'm going to say again, if you're feeling a little bit of frustration in that, remember, courage is what we do when confidence is lacking. You cannot have courage where confidence exists. So allow that space to ground you, to build into that sense of building towards your manifestation goals and being intentional in the process. Because if not, it can make you feel like a little bit more like jumpy. Like jumpy is kind of the best way I can put it. Or it could have to be navigating with others that are feeling more more snappy, like more pugnacious, if you will, like someone who's like, like just kind of like, reacts instead of absorbs. So don't be reactive. If someone comes towards you like that, ask them to repeat themselves. Today would be a good day to say, could you repeat that? Like giving someone that benefit of the doubt and saying, can you please say that one more time? You know what I mean? Like, because that, even there, like a little bit of that, like that punchiness, like if someone's coming towards you and asking you to move quickly, be like, what is the, why the rush, right? Because the rush may have more to do with the feeling of the energy surrounding them as opposed, like the egoic self, as opposed to the intentional self. Continuing to get clarification between our moon card in its reversal in combination with our 9 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify. Ooh, I like it. We've got our Tower in its reversal. You'll recall the Tower was in our last reading. It was in its upright. So I see even now a little bit of that easement coming in, right? Like a lot of that feeling of recognizing and focusing on what feels that it is functional, right? And so I want to say this is like the feeling of energetic distraction, if you will. For masculine and feminine, it is having a different impact, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine energy right now, this is actually really beautiful because, again, this to me, these 3 cards in succession would say to me that this is a lot of the masculine energy that is building into that concept of not allowing their emotions to run untethered, right? Like this is the masculine that when the emotions come up, you allow yourself to feel them. You allow yourself to identify where they're coming from. You identify whether they're coming up from a place of sacredness or from the place that feels more like it's the egoic sense. And if this is the masculine that feels that emotionality, I can see a lot of the masculine being like, that's my ego. Like, that's just my ego talking. And that ability of doing so, right? Like having that internal conversation with the self and being like, no, that's just my ego that wants to run around unchecked. Like, this is the energy of the masculine in the moment of recognizing that embraces the energetic ego, right? Because that's almost the masculine doing that inner child healing. And when we're in a space of doing healthy inner child healing, the ego becomes the unhealed inner child, right? So I see a lot of that energy of the masculine that's almost like reparenting themselves in that context. And also in like in that same regard, if there's masculine energy that comes towards masculine in that way, masculine almost addressing them like one would a healthy parent, because once one sees it within the self, it's hard not to see it outside the self in that way as well. For a lot of the feminine energy right now, I see that a lot of the feminine energy is more, I keep getting something about like feminine being more in that space of navigating what feels energetically balanced, right? And that's why, again, if this is the feminine that's navigating that same experience, this is a feminine that does a lot of work in finding that balance within the self. And once the feminine finds it within the self, they get very like, it becomes very much like the feminine that becomes more protective of that, because the feminine is so appreciative of the work of the masculine that does that effectively. So this is why I see, again, there's a little bit of this energy of feminine that, like, if feminine encounters that outside of the self, giving someone like that chance, that one opportunity. I keep getting the feminine. This is a lot of, I keep hearing a lot of the feminine energy being like, you get one chance. Like, would you like to reassert what you just said? You know, are you sure about that determination point? Because that's the feminine, that in that modality of giving compassion, but the compassion with limits is the feminine that says, I love you, by creating that space of love that says, I give you an opportunity to correct something, you know, before I have to step in, before the feminine has to step in and energetically like do something. So even here, we see that there's a lot of that energy coming into that space of both navigating that within the self, but also giving others the grace around them to hopefully see if they're being too reactive, via that modality of saying to someone like, you know, do you want to repeat what you said? Do you want to reconsider like the logic behind that? Do you want to like reaffirm, like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that clarification, if you will, and that's taking some of this like pickiness and almost saying to another, it's picky because it's important, right? Continuing to get clarification here between our King of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Page of Wands. A lot of inner child healing today, right? So for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, a lot of those emotions rising up today, it feels like a lot of inner child healing. And when we're healing the inner child, and this is why, and again, we're going to talk about the fact that healing the inner child does not mean we're talking about the version of you when you were 5. If you were in a space where you felt like your ego was running the show, like earlier, like, congratulations, that's the inner child that you're healing, right? Because I see even now a lot of that energy is listening to the inner child, right? Like when the ego wants to speak, we don't discount it, right? Because the ego is trying to protect us. So when we're in a space that we feel something, we don't just discount it and say that's the ego. It's almost like, again, we heal our inner child by looking to the ego and saying, do you have something that you want to say about it? Right? Like, what would you like? You raised your hand. Like, this is like, you know, this is the Page of Wands going, you raised your hand. What would you like to say to the class? You know? So I see a lot of this energy that is actively doing that work of listening to the inner child, right? Not just discounting it, but healing by saying, what is your concern? Why are you reacting up? What is the source of it? And so that's how we heal the ego. We listen to what the ego has to say. Sometimes the inner child says like something very reasonable and being like, that makes sense. It makes sense that you feel that way. And that's how we articulate through it. Sometimes if the inner child raises her hand and says something ridiculous, you have to say, can you repeat that? Like, can you please repeat that? Because it's in that moment of suddenly recognizing where the thing that feels illogical versus what feels fundamental. Often by asking ourselves these questions, we're able to articulate to others what we need more effectively. So I just see even now there's a lot of that introspection, if you will, that is occurring to be able to have that type of work of breakthrough. So a lot of that, I want to say it's interesting. This isn't meditation. This is active internal conversation is what I'm getting. Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Tower card in its reversal is, we've got here, I love it, the Hangman in its upright. So this is, like I said, working, there's a lot of energy right now tackling things, right? And I see it even now, like there's this moment, I'm identifying that, like, and this is happening across all the frequencies, which is, you know, the question that is asked is the question that is answered, right? The introspection that is found within the self is the introspection that can be brought forth outside of the self. So there's a lot of that active work that we're seeing even now that is occurring today. And what's beautiful about it is for the energy that's deep, like working on the self, this is the introspection that allows for breakthrough points, right? This is the introspection that allows for things to get easier. Sometimes, like the beauty of seeing something from a different perspective is it allows for an ability to recognize and identify something that one didn't necessarily consider before, or something that you haven't seen in the same way. So I keep seeing that even now there's a lot of this work in terms of recognizing and identifying perspectives that is allowing for a lot of those points of breakthrough. Now, for masculine and feminine in separation right now, I got to keep seeing. This is the stability of some of these partnerships that are arriving right now. And the reason, and I can see a lot of this energy right now in separation building into this context. I can see it even now. There's some energy in separation saying to themselves, there's stability that I'm experiencing in these new partnerships. Is this because I found the stability in myself? Or am I finding someone that is energetically stable enough to do it with? The answer is yes. And I know how frustrating it is, but the answer is yes, right? Because we find things when we're ready for them. We see things when we're ready for them. So I see even now there's a lot of that energy that is feeling that sense of breakthrough, and they're struggling potentially in separation over that modality of asking the self, is this something that I'm creating within the self, or is this something that I'm finding outside of the self? And the answer is yes. We attract what we're energetically ready for. So again, if you're doing that work in separation, congratulations, because you're not seeking it outside of the self, you're finding it within, and it's making it easier for you to see without. While for masculine and feminine energy that are coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're potentially seeing right now as they're coming into divine union, this is the energy that is identifying and recognizing the breakthroughs that have allowed them to move deeper into partnership. And it's changing their own perception. It's changing their perception on what they prioritize. It's changing their perception on what it takes to build into healthy connection. And this is a lot of that energy that is appreciating the journey, because this is the energy that feels like moving into partnership is very much like being in that space of being the perpetual student, right? And the perpetual student does not feel like they don't know anything. They feel like they're in the modality of constantly being ready to learn more. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, a lot of that energy deep within divine union right now, I keep getting the energy. I keep seeing a lot of this energy deep within divine union, giving someone like a little bit of an opportunity to energetically heal, right? Because a lot of that is looking towards those around them and trying to articulate whether others see things also in that modality of being a perpetual student. So when we're in that space of being in the space of being a perpetual student, you don't just become like, you don't just tell someone the right thing to do. You kind of create that context where you allow them to find it within themselves, right? So I see even now, there's a lot of energy right now deep within divine union working on healing energetic connections, even outside of partnership, but with that same level or degree of adaptability that allows the opportunity for another to change while also maintaining one's own energetic standards, right? final card for today's spread between our Page of Wands in combination with our Hanged Man in its upright. Woo, come on, one card, please. One card. Clarification coming through right now. There you go. With our, I like the swords that we're seeing today. They're much more practical swords than we were seeing a couple days ago. We've got here our Two of Swords in its reversal. So what's really beautiful here about this energy, like I said, like the energy, the state or space of choice being energetically sacred, right? And so we see even now that for a lot of that energy deep within divine union, this is the energy that is, I want to say, patient to those around them, because this isn't the energy that feels that sense or space of like, again, they don't, not taking another person's choices personally, but building into that context of alignment with those that look at things in the same way, right? That is effectively or energetically the gift that we see, that the energy deep within divine union recognizes as it relates to those that are surrounding them, right? It has to do with, again, that prioritization point, that sense of energetic care. And so we see even now that always leaves for that space of adaptability, because when you're in a space that you are constantly learning, you always have compassion that another can also come into that modality, right? It's one of those, that's one of those things, which is like the compassion with the standards is what I keep seeing here. And so it almost says to me that I see a lot of those energies right now deep within divine union, almost checking on those energetic connections in such a way in order to either reaffirm if there's something there that's healed, or being in that state or space of being, of understanding deeper why something isn't in a place of healing, or working on that self, like working on the self in a way that you're making the adaptability points on what can change within the self, but accepting what is outside of the self to navigate. And that's where we find a lot of the energy that's coming into divine union right now, because that's why so much of this energy coming into divine union feels that sense of something being bittersweet, because this isn't the energy that says that they're perfect, but they're finding that pathwork of perfection as they move closer into divine union. And that is something that they don't want others to take personally. That's something that they hope others find in their own pathwork as well. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, I keep seeing a lot of this energy building into new healthy energetic connections and separation. But this is also, like, this is the work that you've done on the self, right? For feminine, this isn't the feminine allowing their emotionality or fears to guide them, but allowing for that sense of asking questions, building forth with the masculine energy that is able to address those questions, that is able to come into that state of openness, utilizing those questions as an act of energetic discernment, right? So there's a lot of the feminine that's building into that pathwork of discernment and finding stability in the process, right? While for masculine energy right now, this is masculine that is building into that space of authenticity, not wanting to put that false sense of self before the feminine. But this is the masculine that says, I need to show you who I am so that I give you the opportunity to love me there. And I don't feel like I'm having you fall in love with a false person or someone that doesn't energetically exist, right? So we see even now there's something really beautiful about these energetic connections, because this is the energy that doesn't wait and see. This is the energy that feels the stability from the start, and it just feels like it grows. And what happens in those experiences where you're building into a healthy connection and you're just hoping that something grows, it helps you heal from any of those connections in the past where something was off and you kept hoping something was going to move into a place of positivity. But recognizing that when something is negative, like isn't working, that the ability of changing it has to do with the prioritization of the desire to change it. And so even here, there's a lot of energy, and I can just see it like reaching that point of finalitude as it relates to healing from the past. And this isn't the energy that says I'm finally healed from the past. This is the energy that sees with clarity the difference between what they received in the past that wasn't feeling like it was stable, that was potentially saying or creating that sense of anticipation, but that was actually mystery, right? The anticipation of the unknown versus energy that builds that sense of excitement in relationality to what is recognized and what is to be expected. So the difference between the energy of the past that tried to say, oh, I like to keep you in a state of constant, mystery, that actually means that there's nothing there, as opposed to the energy that says, I have a surprise for you, and this is when you can energetically expect it, and this is the buildup that we have in creating it, because this is the energy that sees the difference between what feels like a healthy sense of anticipation versus the anxiety of healing from experiences where you didn't know what was going to happen from one moment to the next. Bottom of the deck on this reading, we got the Seven of Swords in its upright. Everybody say it with me. We don't go back to the sword store for puppies or kittens or bunny rabbits. We only go back to the sword store for one thing, swords. And this is the thing about this. There's a lot of this heavy weight that we experience, especially when we come to this point of the year, with the past. A lot of heavy nostalgia right now. And I'm going to put it out. I'm going to say this again for everyone experiencing it. Masculine and feminine, different messages. Bearing in mind, not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine, if there are experiences that you're looking at in the past and you're feeling mad about bringing compassion towards someone that didn't deserve compassion, or feeling like you are too compassionate, I want you to say to yourself again, compassion is not a weakness. Discernment is a weakness. So a lot of the feminine energy, remembering and saying to oneself that one's ability to hold your energetic standards and allow those energetic standards to guide you. Remember, healthy energy, unhealthy partnership will always look at those standards and say that they are too much. Healthy partnership will look at those standards and always articulate that they could be even better. So a lot of this feminine energy, I want you to repeat that mantra to yourself today. I am getting stronger every day. Find that sense of self and continue moving forward. And if you're holding frustration at the past, hold that past version of self with compassion and recognize why that energy felt that it was not in a space that it could have standards in the first place. While for a lot of that, or working on that space of improvement, right? Like I just see this is why all of that Empress energy was coming through before. This is the energy of the feminine that's learning to hold themselves more sacredly. And so remember, that is a path work. It's continual work forward. Okay? While for masculine energy, a lot of masculine energy right now, if you're looking back at the past right now and you're feeling regret, you're feeling frustration, you're looking at those spaces where your ego may have moved you in a direction oppositional than the one you wanted to go into, I want you to say to yourself, you are always on time. That ability of seeing something in that way means you are no longer that person. It means that you're perceiving things in different ways. It means that you have grown. And that ability of kind of looking towards that egoic self, this is how you're healing it. This is how you heal your egoic shield. It's painful because you got to look at the dents in it. You got to look at the places that it was in the way. Right? You got to carve it down. You got to get it into fighting shape, right? So that ability of doing so, I want you to say to yourself, you are always on time. You're never too late on your journey. You're exactly where you need to be. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Also, please remember, most importantly, that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a private reading with me is if you book one on my website, and I would encourage you to do it there. I also want to give you guys a couple of updates for today before we get into personal readings. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the Strength card. Our next tarot class will be held on Wednesday, January 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Hermit card. I am so excited to teach this card to you. It is a fascinating card. We are going to go over the symbiology, the history. We're going to go over spread application, how you can read that card in regardless of any position you may find it in your spreads. And I will also be offering you a unique tarot spread that will help you channel the messages of the Hermit into your readings. And all you need to do if you would like to become a part of our tarot class program is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also have access to the full repository of previous Tarot Church classes. That is over 9 hours worth of class material that is available to you as a subscriber. It is not necessary to catch up for each class. I will be giving a recap on what we've studied thus far in each and every class. But the material's there when you're ready to receive it. You will also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've learned thus far. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So I want to thank you so much if you're just joining us there for the first time, and I look forward to potentially seeing you at our next class. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, make sure that you head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel. There you will find a very special coupon code that will give you an additional discount to that Substack subscription. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also be notified as to our giveaway information. And speaking of giveaways, we have announced the winner of our November giveaway. Congratulations to our winner. If you would like to find out if you won, all you need to do is head over to my Substack newsletter. It is listed in the newsletter. Congratulations to our winner. Finally, I want to let you know, on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for my clients that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. These classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I am very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.